The wind screamed through the broken windows of the abandoned electronics warehouse, carrying with it the bitter cold of a February night in Detroit. Marcus Chun pulled his worn jacket tighter around his chest as he picked his way carefully through the debris-strewn floor, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness like a blade. He shouldn't be here. He knew that, but desperation had a way of making bad decisions seem reasonable. His 9-year-old son, Kevin, needed new shoes. The soles of his current pair had worn completely through, and Marcus had watched his boy trying to hide the fact that he was walking on cardboard inserts he'd cut himself. The sight had broken something in Marcus's heart, the same heart that had already been shattered when his wife, Linda, died 2 years ago from complications during what should have been routine surgery. Since then, life had been a constant struggle. Marcus had been a software engineer once, working for a promising startup. Then the company was bought out, restructured, and his entire division was eliminated. At 43 years old, with a gap in his resume and technology moving faster than he could keep up, Marcus found himself working 3 part-time jobs that barely covered rent and food. So here he was, in an abandoned warehouse at midnight, looking for copper wiring he could salvage and sell. It wasn't stealing, he told himself. The building had been condemned for 18 months. Nobody owned it anymore. Nobody cared about the materials inside. He was rationalizing, and he knew it. But Kevin needed shoes. Marcus was examining a junction box when he heard it. A sound so faint he almost missed it over the wind. He froze, listening. There it was again. A whimper. Soft, frightened, human. "Hello," Marcus called out, his voice echoing off the metal walls. "Is someone there?" Silence. Then, barely audible, "Help!" Marcus's blood turned to ice. That was a child's voice. He moved quickly through the warehouse, following the sound, his heart hammering in his chest. As he rounded a stack of old pallets, his flashlight beam fell on something that made him gasp. A boy, maybe 10 or 11 years old, was chained to an old radiator pipe. His clothes were torn and dirty, his face streaked with tears, and his wrists were raw from where the metal cuffs had bitten into his skin. But what caught Marcus's attention most were his eyes. Terrified, desperate, and unmistakably blind. The boy's unfocused gaze stared past Marcus, and his body shook with more than just cold. "Oh my God!" Marcus breathed, rushing forward. "Hey, buddy. Hey, it's okay. I'm here to help." The boy flinched backward, chains rattling. "Don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me." "I'm not going to hurt you," Marcus said quickly, kneeling down but keeping some distance. "My name is Marcus. I'm going to get you out of here. Can you tell me your name?" The boy hesitated, then whispered, "Noah. Noah Sterling." Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Noah Sterling. That name had been all over the news for the past 4 days. The son of tech billionaire Rebecca Sterling, founder of Sterling Innovations. Kidnapped from his private school. Ransom demanded. FBI involved. The whole country was looking for this child. And Marcus had found him, chained in an abandoned warehouse, obviously left to die. "Noah, listen to me carefully," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "I'm going to get you out of those chains. You're going to be okay. I promise you're going to be okay." "I'm cold," Noah whispered. "I'm so cold, and I can't see. I haven't been able to see since I was born. But now I can't hear them anymore either. They left me. They said they were coming back. But they left me." Marcus could see that Noah was going into shock. His lips had a bluish tinge, and his shaking was violent and uncontrollable. The temperature outside was 19 degrees. Inside this unheated warehouse, it couldn't be much warmer. "How long have you been here?" Marcus asked gently, already shrugging out of his jacket and wrapping it around the boy's shoulders. "I don't know. Days? They brought me food once. Or twice. I can't remember." Noah's teeth chattered so hard he could barely speak. Marcus examined the chains. They were secured with a padlock, old but solid. He didn't have bolt cutters, didn't have any tools that could break through metal. He pulled out his phone. No signal. The warehouse's metal construction created a dead zone. Noah, I need to leave you for just a few minutes to call for help, Marcus said. I'm going to run outside where I can get a signal, call 911, and then I'm coming right back. I won't leave you alone. I promise. No! Noah's hand shot out, grabbing Marcus's sleeve with surprising strength. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me. They said they'd come back. What if they come back and you're not here? The raw terror in the boy's voice made Marcus's decision for him. Okay, I won't leave. I'm staying right here. He pulled Noah close, tucking the boy against his chest, trying to transfer his body heat. Noah clung to him like a drowning person clinging to a life raft. Marcus's mind raced. He needed help, needed to get this boy to safety, needed to call authorities. But he also couldn't leave a terrified blind child alone in the darkness, especially not when kidnappers might return. Then he remembered his phone might not be able to call out, but it could still access its offline features. He pulled it out and activated the emergency SOS function. It would attempt to send his location to emergency services using any available signal, even a weak one. Tell me about your mom, Marcus said softly, trying to keep Noah conscious and talking. What's she like? She works a lot, Noah said, his voice small. But she always reads to me at night. Audiobooks mostly, but sometimes she reads herself. She does different voices for all the characters. It makes me laugh. That sounds nice. My son Kevin loves when I read to him too. You have a son? Noah's face turned slightly toward Marcus's voice. Yeah, he's 9. A year younger than you. He loves basketball even though he's terrible at it. And he's obsessed with dinosaurs. Can tell you everything about a velociraptor. I like music, Noah said. I play piano. My teacher says I have perfect pitch. I can hear a song once and play it back. That's amazing, Marcus said, and meant it. He kept rubbing Noah's arms, trying to warm him up. You're going to play piano again very soon. You're going to go home to your mom, and she's going to read to you with all those funny voices. Do you promise? Noah asked, and the desperate hope in his voice nearly broke Marcus. I promise, Marcus said, and knew he would do whatever it took to keep that promise. 20 minutes later, Marcus's phone finally caught a weak signal long enough to get through to 911. 911, what's your emergency? I found Noah Sterling, Marcus said quickly. The missing boy from the news. He's alive, but he's in bad shape. We're at the old Apex Electronics warehouse on Industrial Drive. There was a sharp intake of breath. Can you repeat that, sir? Did you say Noah Sterling? Yes, he's been chained here. He's suffering from exposure, maybe hypothermia. He needs immediate medical attention. Sir, emergency services are on their way. Stay on the line. Can you tell me? The signal cut out. Marcus tried calling back, but the connection was gone. He could only hope the dispatcher had gotten enough information to send help. He went back to Noah, who had gone frighteningly quiet. The boy's shaking had decreased, which Marcus knew was actually a bad sign. It meant his body was giving up the fight against the cold. Noah, stay with me, Marcus said firmly, shaking him gently. You need to stay awake. Talk to me about music. Tell me your favorite song. Noah's eyes fluttered. Clair de Lune. Debussy. My mom says it sounds like moonlight. That's beautiful. What does moonlight sound like? Soft. Silver. Like water made of light. Noah's voice was fading. Marcus heard sirens in the distance. Help was coming. But as he looked at Noah's bluish lips, at the way the boy's breathing had become shallow, he wondered if help would arrive in time. The warehouse door crashed open. Flashlight beams swept the space, followed by voices shouting, FBI! Noah Sterling! Over here! Marcus called out. He's here. What happened next was a blur of activity. FBI agents, paramedics, police officers. Suddenly the warehouse was full of people. Someone produced bolt cutters and freed Noah from the chains. Paramedics surrounded the boy, checking vitals, wrapping him in thermal blankets, starting in 4-line. A female FBI agent approached Marcus. "I'm Agent Diana Reeves. You found him?" Marcus nodded, still dazed. I was looking for salvage materials. I heard him crying." Agent Reeves studied him carefully. "Looking for salvage materials at midnight in an abandoned warehouse?" Marcus felt his face flush with shame. "I needed money. My son needs shoes. I wasn't going to take anything that anyone would miss. I know how it sounds, but—" "You saved a child's life," Agent Reeves interrupted. "That's what matters right now. We'll need you to come with us to give a full statement." As paramedics loaded Noah into an ambulance, the boy called out weakly, "Marcus? Where's Marcus?" "I'm right here, buddy," Marcus said, moving to the ambulance. Noah's hand reached out blindly, and Marcus took it. "You promised," Noah whispered. "You promised I'd be okay. And you will be," Marcus said firmly. "You're safe now. Your mom is going to be so happy to see you. Will you come see me? At the hospital?" Marcus glanced at Agent Reeves, who nodded slightly. "Yeah," Marcus said. "I'll come see you." They took Noah away, sirens wailing into the night. Marcus was driven to FBI headquarters for questioning. The interrogation was thorough but not hostile. Marcus told them everything, about losing his job, about Linda's death, about struggling to provide for Kevin, about going to the warehouse for salvage materials. He told them about finding Noah, about staying with him, about calling for help. "You did the right thing," Agent Reeves said finally. "Most people would have just called 911 and left. But you stayed with a terrified child. That took courage." "I couldn't leave him," Marcus said simply. "He was scared. He's just a kid." "We arrested the kidnappers 3 hours ago," Agent Reeves continued. "Two men, both with extensive criminal records. They were arguing about the ransom plan. One wanted to follow through, the other wanted to cut their losses and run. In the end, they just left him there. Left a blind child chained in a freezing warehouse to die." Marcus felt sick. "How could anyone?" "I don't know," Agent Reeves said quietly. "Some people lack basic humanity. But you proved humanity still exists." Marcus finally got home at 4 a.m. His neighbor, Mrs. Chun, no relation, had watched Kevin overnight. The elderly woman hugged Marcus when he stumbled through his door. "I saw the news," she said. "They're calling you a hero. You found that sterling boy." Marcus didn't feel like a hero. He felt exhausted and overwhelmed. Kevin was asleep on the couch, waiting up for his dad. Marcus sat beside his son, gently brushing hair off the boy's forehead. Kevin looked so much like Linda, the same dark hair, the same gentle features. Looking at him hurt and healed at the same time. "Dad." Kevin stirred awake. "You're home. Are you okay?" "Mrs. Chun said you found a missing kid." "Yeah," Marcus said softly. "I found him. He's safe now." "Is he going to be okay?" "I think so." Kevin hugged his father tightly. "I'm proud of you, Dad." Marcus held his son close and let himself feel, just for a moment, that maybe things would be okay. The next morning, Marcus's phone wouldn't stop ringing. News outlets wanted interviews. The FBI wanted follow-up questions answered. And then there was a call from a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Chun? This is Rebecca Sterling." Marcus almost dropped his phone. Rebecca Sterling, one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in the country. Noah's mother. "Ms. Sterling, you saved my son's life." Her voice was thick with emotion. "The doctors say another hour in that cold, and he wouldn't have made it. You stayed with him. You kept him warm. You kept him calm. You saved his life when you could have just called 911 and left." "I couldn't leave him alone," Marcus said. "He was scared." "Would you come to the hospital? Noah keeps asking for you." He wants to thank you properly. Marcus glanced at Kevin, who was watching with wide eyes. Can I bring my son? Of course. 2 hours later, Marcus and Kevin walked into the private wing of Detroit Memorial Hospital. Rebecca Sterling met them in the hallway. A woman in her mid-40s with tired eyes and an expensive but rumpled suit, like she'd been wearing it for days. Mr. Chun, she said, extending her hand. Thank you for coming. This is my son, Kevin, Marcus said. Rebecca shook Kevin's hand solemnly. Your father is a remarkable man. I know, Kevin said simply, making both adults smile. Noah's hospital room was bright and warm. Everything the warehouse hadn't been. The boy was sitting up in bed, looking 1,000 times better than he had last night. His wrists were bandaged, and he was still pale, but his lips were pink again, and he was alive. Marcus. Noah's unseeing eyes turned toward the door. Hey, buddy, Marcus said, approaching the bed. I brought someone to meet you. This is my son, Kevin. Hi, Kevin said shyly. I'm glad you're okay. Your dad saved my life, Noah said. He found me when I thought no one would. He stayed with me when I was scared. The two boys started talking, and Marcus found himself standing beside Rebecca Sterling, both parents watching their children with a mixture of love and relief. The FBI told me you were at that warehouse looking for salvage materials, Rebecca said quietly. They said you've been struggling since losing your job. Marcus felt his face burn with shame. I wasn't stealing exactly. The building's been abandoned for. I don't care about that, Rebecca interrupted gently. I care that you were in such a desperate situation that you felt you had no choice. And yet when you found my son, you didn't hesitate to help him. You didn't think about yourself. You thought about him. Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't, Rebecca said firmly. You did. And I want to help you the way you helped Noah. Ms. Sterling, I appreciate it, but I don't need. Please. Rebecca's eyes met his. Let me do this. Not as charity, but as a thank you. And honestly, as something I should have done years ago. Marcus frowned, confused. Years ago. Rebecca took a deep breath. Mr. Chan, Marcus. Do you remember working at TechVision Solutions about 3 years ago? The name hit Marcus like a physical blow. TechVision. The startup he'd worked for before it was acquired and restructured. I remember, he said carefully. My company, Sterling Innovations, acquired TechVision. I made the decision to restructure, to eliminate certain divisions that I deemed redundant. Your entire software engineering department was let go. Marcus stared at her, pieces clicking into place. You're the reason I lost my job? Yes, Rebecca said quietly. It was a business decision. I looked at spreadsheets and projections and efficiency metrics. I never thought about the real people behind those numbers. I never considered that I was destroying lives, breaking up families, creating exactly the kind of desperate situation that led you to that warehouse last night. Marcus didn't know what to say. The anger he'd carried for 3 years suddenly had a face, a name, a person responsible. But that person was also the mother of the boy he'd saved, and she was looking at him with such profound regret that his anger faltered. I can't change what I did, Rebecca continued, but I can try to make it right. I want to offer you a position at Sterling Innovations, Senior Software Architect. It's not just a make-work job. I genuinely need someone with your skills, and I want to set up a trust fund for Kevin's education. And, Ms. Sterling, Marcus interrupted. Why? Because 3 years ago, I made a decision that hurt you without ever considering the human cost. And last night, you made a decision that saved my son without ever considering what it might cost you. You could have just called 911 from outside. You could have left when you couldn't get signal. But you stayed because a child needed you. That's the kind of person I want working for me. That's the kind of person I want my son to know. And that's the kind of person I owe a massive debt to. Marcus looked at Kevin, who was laughing at something Noah said. He thought about the years of struggle, of working 3 part-time jobs, of watching his son go without while trying to maintain his dignity. He thought about Linda, about how the stress of his unemployment had exacerbated her health problems, about how he'd always wondered if things might have been different if he'd still had his career, his insurance, his stability. And he thought about Rebecca Sterling, who'd made a business decision that destroyed his life, and who was now trying to make amends because he'd saved her son. "Okay," Marcus said finally, "but not because I saved Noah. If I'm going to work for you, I need to earn that position. I need to know it's real." "It is real," Rebecca said. "I looked up your work history. You were brilliant at TechVision. I should never have let you go." The transition happened faster than Marcus could have imagined. Within 2 weeks, he was starting at Sterling Innovations. The salary was 3 times what he'd been making from his 3 part-time jobs combined. The benefits included health insurance, dental, vision, and a college savings plan for Kevin. But more than the financial security, Marcus found that he'd missed this work. He'd missed using his mind, missed solving complex problems, missed the satisfaction of creating something elegant and functional. His team respected him. His ideas were valued. And slowly, Marcus began to feel like himself again. Like the man he'd been before everything fell apart. Noah and Kevin became close friends despite Noah attending a private school and Kevin attending public school. They had playdates every weekend, and Marcus found himself spending more time with Rebecca Sterling than he'd expected. She was different than he'd imagined. Not the cold corporate executive he'd built up in his mind during those dark years, but a single mother who'd made difficult decisions and was learning to live with their consequences. "I used to think business was just about numbers," Rebecca told him one evening. They were watching the boys play in Noah's elaborate game room. "Profits, efficiency, growth. I never thought about the people behind those numbers until I almost lost Noah. Until a man whose life I'd destroyed saved my son's life. It changed my perspective on everything." "I'm not going to lie," Marcus said. "There were times I hated you, or the idea of you, the faceless executive who decided I was expendable. I don't blame you, but I'm learning that people are more complicated than the worst things they've done. You made a decision that hurt me. I made choices that led me to breaking into an abandoned warehouse. We're both just trying to do our best with the information we have." Rebecca looked at him with something like wonder. "How are you not angrier? You have every right to be furious with me." "I was angry for a long time, but anger didn't pay my bills or help Kevin. And now," Marcus trailed off, watching their sons laugh together. "Now I have my career back. Kevin has a future, and I found Noah because of the circumstances you helped create. If I'd still been working my old job at TechVision, I never would have been in that warehouse that night. Noah would have died." "So you're saying my bad decision led to a good outcome?" "I'm saying everything is connected in ways we can't predict. Cause and effect isn't always clear. Maybe things happen exactly the way they're supposed to." Over the following months, Marcus and Rebecca developed a friendship that surprised them both. She valued his perspective. He understood what it was like to lose everything and fight your way back. He appreciated her honesty about her mistakes and her genuine efforts to be better. They started having coffee together after dropping the boys at school. Started texting each other about work problems and parenting challenges. Started looking forward to seeing each other in ways that had nothing to do with guilt or gratitude. Kevin noticed first. "Dad, do you like Miss Sterling?" "She's become a good friend," Marcus said carefully. "No, I mean, do you like her? The way you liked Mom." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "Kevin, nobody could ever replace your mom." "I know that," Kevin said with the wisdom of a child who'd grown up too fast. "But Mom would want you to be happy, and Miss Sterling makes you smile different. Like you used to smile before Mom got sick." It was Noah who unknowingly brought everything to a head. The boys were doing homework together at Marcus's apartment, something that had become routine. Marcus was making dinner when he overheard their conversation. "My dad says your mom was really smart," Noah said. She was, Kevin replied. She worked for Sterling Innovations, in the medical device division. Marcus froze. My mom's company? Noah said. That's cool. What did she do? She was a consultant. She helped design some kind of heart monitor thing. Dad says she was really proud of that work. Marcus's mind raced. Linda had consulted for Sterling Innovations. He'd known that, but he'd never connected it to Rebecca Sterling herself. The company was huge, thousands of employees. Linda had worked with the medical technology division on one specific project. But now Marcus remembered something Linda had said, back when things were falling apart. Something about her contract not being renewed. Something about budget cuts in her division. That night, after Kevin was asleep, Marcus pulled out Linda's old work files. He'd kept them, unable to throw away that piece of her life. He found the termination letter, dated 6 months after Marcus lost his job at TechVision, citing restructuring of consultant contracts and budget reallocation. Signed by Rebecca Sterling. Marcus felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Rebecca hadn't just cost him his job. She'd also ended Linda's consulting contract. The contract that had been providing their only income after Marcus's layoff. The contract whose loss had created the financial stress that had exacerbated Linda's heart condition. Rebecca Sterling hadn't just restructured his division at TechVision. She'd also made the decision that eliminated Linda's work at Sterling Innovations. One executive, 2 decisions, both devastating. Marcus sat alone in his dark apartment, holding Linda's termination letter, and felt the weight of cosmic irony pressing down on him. The woman he'd been developing feelings for. The woman who'd been so grateful that he'd saved her son. The woman who'd given him his career back. She was also the woman who'd inadvertently contributed to his wife's death. Marcus avoided Rebecca for a week. He claimed work was busy, that Kevin had a cold, that he needed to handle some personal matters. Rebecca seemed concerned but gave him space. Then she showed up at his apartment unannounced. Marcus, what's going on? She asked when he opened the door. Did I do something wrong? Are you angry about work? About? You fired Linda, Marcus said flatly. Rebecca's face went pale. What? My wife, Linda Chen. She was a consultant for Sterling Innovations, medical device division. You terminated her contract 6 months after you eliminated my position at TechVision. Rebecca looked like she might be sick. I didn't know. Marcus, I swear I didn't know. How could you not know? Because I didn't personally review every consultant contract. I made division-wide budget decisions. I never saw individual names. Medical devices, software engineering, they were just line items on reports. Just line items, Marcus repeated bitterly. My entire life, reduced to line items. That's not what I meant. Linda needed that income, Marcus interrupted. Years of suppressed pain finally breaking through. We were already struggling after I lost my job. Her consulting fees were all we had. And when you cut that, the stress, the financial pressure, her heart condition got worse. The doctor said stress was a major contributing factor. She needed to reduce her workload, but we couldn't afford it. We needed the money for her medications, for her care, and we didn't have it because you decided to restructure. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I never knew. If I had known. What would you have done differently? Made an exception for the wife of an engineer you'd already fired? Or would you have just made the same business decision anyway? I don't know, Rebecca admitted, tears streaming down her face. I'd like to think I would have done something different, but I honestly don't know. Back then, I was so focused on growth, on profits, on efficiency. I didn't think about the human cost of my decisions. I didn't think about people like you and Linda, struggling to survive. No, Marcus said. You didn't. They stood there in his doorway, years of pain and regret hanging between them. I understand if you hate me, Rebecca said quietly. I understand if you want to quit. I understand if you never want to see me again. I destroyed your life not once but twice. And I didn't even know I was doing it. That's the worst part, Marcus said, his voice breaking. You didn't even know. You were just making decisions in boardrooms, looking at spreadsheets, and you had no idea that you were killing people. Not directly, but the consequences of your choices. They rippled out and destroyed everything I loved. I know, Rebecca whispered, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. Will you? Marcus demanded. Or will you just go back to making the same decisions, letting other people pay the price for your business strategies? No, Rebecca said firmly. Everything changed when I almost lost Noah. When I realized that someone whose life I'd destroyed had every reason to walk away, but instead stayed with my terrified child in a freezing warehouse. You taught me that people matter more than profits. You taught me that business decisions have real consequences for real people. I shouldn't have had to teach you that, Marcus said. You should have known that already. You're right, and I can't change the past. But I'm trying to change the future. I've implemented new policies at Sterling Innovations, transition support for laid-off employees, extended health benefits, family assistance programs. I'm trying to make sure that what happened to you and Linda doesn't happen to other families. That doesn't bring Linda back. No, Rebecca agreed. Nothing will bring her back, and I will carry the weight of my role in her death for the rest of my life. Marcus looked at this woman who'd inadvertently destroyed his life and then inadvertently given him a second chance. He thought about Linda, about the life they'd had and the life they'd lost. He thought about Kevin, who needed his father to move forward, not stay trapped in the past. And he thought about Noah, a blind boy who'd nearly died because of others' cruelty, who'd survived because Marcus made the choice to stay. I need time, Marcus said finally. I need to process this. I need to figure out if I can separate who you are now from what you did then. Take all the time you need, Rebecca said. I'll understand whatever you decide. She turned to leave, then paused. Marcus? For what it's worth, I think Linda would be proud of the man you've become. You didn't let bitterness destroy you. You didn't let anger make you cruel. You saved a child's life when you had every reason to only think about yourself. That's remarkable. After she left, Marcus sat alone in his apartment for a long time, holding the photograph of Linda that he kept on his bedside table. I don't know what to do, he whispered to her image. Tell me what to do. But Linda couldn't answer. She was gone, and Marcus was left to figure out how to move forward on his own. Kevin found his father sitting in the dark that night. Dad? Are you okay? Marcus looked at his son, 9 years old and far too perceptive. I found out something about Ms. Sterling. Something about how she's connected to what happened to Mom. Kevin climbed onto the couch beside his father. Is that why you've been sad this week? Yeah. Do you hate her now? Marcus thought about the question. I don't know what I feel. She made decisions that hurt us, but she didn't know she was hurting us. And now she's trying to make things better. Mom used to say that people make mistakes, Kevin said quietly. She said the important thing is whether they try to fix them. When did she say that? When I broke her favorite vase. I was trying to reach a toy on the shelf and I knocked it over. I was so scared she'd be mad, but she just hugged me and said mistakes happen. She said what mattered was that I said sorry and tried to be more careful. Marcus felt tears burn his eyes. Your mom was wise. She also said. Kevin hesitated. Before she died, when she was really sick, she made me promise something. What did she make you promise? She made me promise to take care of you. She said you'd be really sad for a long time, but that eventually you'd be ready to be happy again. And she made me promise to tell you it was okay. That she wanted you to be happy, even if it meant moving on without her. Marcus pulled his son close. You're pretty smart, you know that? I get it from Mom, Kevin said. And from you. Over the next few weeks, Marcus did a lot of thinking. He talked to a therapist, something he probably should have done years ago. He talked to Mrs. Chun, his neighbor, who'd become like a grandmother to Kevin. He talked to his own parents, still alive and living in California, who'd been worried about him for years. And slowly, Marcus began to understand something important. Rebecca Sterling had made decisions that contributed to his suffering. But she hadn't done it maliciously. She'd done it from a place of ignorance, not understanding the human cost of corporate strategies. And now she was trying to do better. That didn't erase the past. But it mattered. Marcus called Rebecca 3 weeks after their confrontation. "I don't know if I can forgive you for what happened to Linda," he said honestly. "That might take years, or it might never happen completely. But I can acknowledge that you're trying to be better. And I think Linda would want me to give you that chance." "Thank you," Rebecca said quietly. "That means more than you know." "I'm not quitting," Marcus continued. "I'm good at this work, and Kevin deserves the stability this job provides. But I need us to be honest with each other. No more secrets, no more discoveries of ways we're connected. Just honesty." "Agreed." "And Rebecca, I think we should tell Noah and Kevin. They're old enough to understand, at least partially. And I don't want them finding out years from now and feeling like we lied to them." They told the boys together, carefully explaining that sometimes adults make mistakes that hurt people, but that the important thing is trying to make things right. Noah was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "So Marcus's wife died partly because of decisions my mom made?" "Yes," Rebecca said gently. "I didn't know it at the time, but yes. My decisions contributed to circumstances that hurt Marcus and his family. But Marcus still saved me," Noah said slowly. "Even though Mom's company fired him and his wife, he still stayed with me in the warehouse. He still kept me warm and safe." "Yes," Marcus said, "because you needed help. And that was more important than anger or revenge." Noah turned his unseeing eyes toward Marcus. "Thank you for being better than most people would have been." Kevin spoke up then. "My mom would have liked Miss Sterling. She always said everyone deserves a second chance." The Sterling Innovations Community Foundation launched 2 years after Marcus found Noah in that warehouse. It provided transition support for displaced workers, extended health benefits for families in crisis, and emergency assistance for people facing the kind of desperate circumstances that had led Marcus to that abandoned warehouse. Marcus served on the board of directors. Rebecca funded it personally, but Marcus helped shape its mission and programs, drawing from his own experience of loss and struggle. Noah and Kevin were inseparable. Noah taught Kevin piano. Kevin taught Noah about basketball, though playing it remained challenging given Noah's blindness. They were brothers in all but biology. And Marcus and Rebecca? They'd developed something neither of them had expected. Not quite romance, there was too much history, too much complexity for that to be simple. But a partnership built on honesty, mutual respect, and an understanding of how much they'd both grown. "Do you think about Linda?" Rebecca asked one evening. They were watching the boys play in Noah's backyard. Their 11th and 12th birthdays both recent. "Every day," Marcus said honestly. "But it doesn't hurt the way it used to. I think she'd be proud of who Kevin's becoming. And I think she'd forgive."